My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. The entity is stalking while I'm at Chevron, walking out last night as though they're going to land along what is Lemon Avenue, while they are flying last night in what is the direction east. I just want to be clear, the entity is engaged in what is coming from the same airport, hovering at a higher elevation, and engaging in what is stalking and comes with the people of the state. doing so in what is the specific environment, as I've shown, and also varying from what has anything to do with landings and arrivals to the airport. There is no airport property. The airport drive is what would be south of Holt Boulevard. The entity was stalking at the Chevron, hovering through that parking lot, which I captured on video as I walk out last night, and also hovering repeatedly as though there's some airport. It's not even in alignment, and there is no airport property that is beyond Holt Boulevard. It is south of Holt Boulevard. The entity is engaged in what is stalking by flying north and then hovering where I'm at. That's what they were doing at the bus stop last night while I was at F Street. That's what they were doing at the Chevron, and that's what they're doing now. You're also paying attention to the variation in elevation when you are coming from the same airport, ostensibly some sort of landing and takeoff from the same place. None of those landings and takeoffs are coming from any sort of airport that is on. There's no airport down here. The entity's engaged in the airport drive. My point is that the airport drive is south of Holt Boulevard, which is a substantial distance, while the entity is hovering over the 280 North Lemon Apartments, where you already know the fake sun is documented rising and setting. The demon-possessed, the people of the state, are engaged in psychopathic pacing in concert with the entity that is stalking biplanes. Okay, this is P.O.C. This is impunity while the entity is engaging in that. I documented the ongoing sex offense by the people, the demons that are targeting together, stalking with planes. This is all on behalf and in concert with Mike LORENZ and that agency that's engaging in ongoing surveillance. All right, this is P.O.C. It's currently 8:53 a.m. at the OVITT Family Community Library at 215 E.C. Street. This is 280 North Lemon Apartments. This is Lemon Avenue. The entity, as I was documenting the video last night, they were hovering as though they're landing like there's some airport property back. There isn't. The airport, like I stated, is south of Holt Boulevard. There's nothing, and you're not landing on anything over here. You're not landing on the ground and then rolling to the airport. There's nothing over here with regard to the airport. The entity is, that's just another angle of recognizing stalking. It is the P.O.C. It's 8:54 a.m. That's the Ontario City Hall, the Ontario Senior Center. That's Southwest Airlines flying in the direction west. This is stalking by the airport. That's P.O.C. And behind I'm located, this is the OVITT Family Community Library, the Page One Cafe Inn, and the entity is maintaining plane activity in the direction west. There is no airport property in this line, this B line that they're maintaining. Like I stated, the Ontario Airport is south of Holt Boulevard. On Holt Boulevard, you have to turn south onto Vineyard, and then you're on Airport Boulevard, and the property of the airport where you can see all the terminals, you can see the airlines, all of that is south. It's nowhere near here. The entity's flying north and then maintaining a beeline, blatant stalking, and doing so as I progress north up Euclid Avenue. That's what they're doing over the Chevron and the ARCO, like they're landing. P.O.C. It's currently 9:14 a.m. (9:15 a.m.) That's not a landing or a takeoff either. In the same way you see them veering, they're flying north across Holt Boulevard. They're flying across the property away from the airport to then maintain a beeline, flying in alignment to me, stalking. That was Southwest Airlines doing a cartwheel. And where are they doing the cartwheel? In alignment to me. And where are they also stalking? By flying west, where there's no airport east of this location. They didn't take off from the airport. The airport is south of Holt Boulevard. The entity is engaged in what is stalking. And also you're looking at the time, 9:16 a.m. Southwest Airlines published flights do not include what would be doing cartwheels from the airport. And you're flying miles north to be over the Ontario Senior Center and the Ontario City Hall.
the 280 North Lemon Apartments. They're dipping behind the Ontario Town Square Amphitheater. I'll connect these videos to remind you about the bigger picture of where this airport is clearly stalking. The domestic enemies are these airline companies that are engaging in murdering American citizens while they're engaging in what is this criminal activity of stalking in this incredible manner. They commit murder. That's what UPS did. This is P.O.C. It is 9:16 a.m. You are dealing with demons, so they're engaging in the same thing, covering up, just like they cover up the fake sun. And there is no plane activity, and I just captured them stalking in the planes. There is no plane activity that's going to sound from the airport. There is no airport east of this direction. The airport is still coming from the same direction. The entity literally just covered up the sky space, so you cannot see them stalking. You can hear them stalking. Those are the demons that think if you cover up the fake sun, then it doesn't exist. It's already an established fact. And it's going to get the demons that are stalking in planes, they are necessarily going into mental asylums and prisons. They commit murder just like UPS did in Kentucky. This is no exaggeration. This is, again, 9:40 a.m. That's an entity that's engaging in criminal activity and is also aware of the fact that that criminal activity is being documented. And it is also blatant criminal activity, stalking, in absurd ways, clearly deviating from the operations of that airport, which is going to be at the center of the prosecution of the city of Ontario, the state of California. P.O.C., it's 9:41 a.m. Stalking, 9:47 a.m. Over the Ontario Senior Center, over the Ontario City Hall, in alignment to me, stalking, which is what the entity is doing while I am walking out of Chevron, while I'm remaining at the bus stop, and the entity is engaged in psychopathic pacing using planes. This is P.O.C. at the OVITT Family Community Library, 215 U.C. Street, at the Page 1 Cafe Inn. That's amplified audible activity. Three minutes later. (9:47 and 9:50 a.m.) This is understanding, putting the demon's behavior into context. It's stalking. It's psychopathic pacing. These are demons. You're assessing their mental illness while they're engaging in the gang stalking system. This is mental illness, and this is also why the entity is a threat to national security, because this mental illness is speaking to what is absurd behavior aside from what is stalking. They're pacing using planes. That's a significant. This is group conduct. So it's one plane after another, after another, after another, where no planes coming from Airport Drive are flying west from that property over the Ontario Senior Center, over the Ontario Town Square. West of the airport is south. All of that is south of Hope Boulevard. So when you're flying west from the airport, there is no plane that's flying west from the airport taking off that's flying west along G Street while I'm in the courtyard capturing that video of the Ontario airport stalking while the fake sun is over me at the Ontario Airport Inn. Okay, they're flying west over the Ontario airport. You're necessarily flying north of Hope Boulevard from the airport to then lower in elevation like a creepy psychopath, using commercial airline planes that clearly don't have anything else to do. I am the target, literally. And the entity then rises up in elevation where I'm capturing that video. That's just the Ontario Airport. And when you're speaking of the location of the airport and you're looking at everywhere that the entity is engaged in what is stalking, and you're assessing mental illness, the people of the state are demons. This is group conduct. So they're engaged in psychopathic pacing when you're looking at traffic. They're all under a fake sun. They're all in engineered light. This group conduct are demons together engaging in what is crossing path obsessively with me. Doing so over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's not traffic. It is surveillance. And the group is making sure that they are maintaining presence in that regard. That's psychopathic pacing. This is what an entity is doing using planes. That is a threat to the public, where that level of mental illness is flying planes. And this is what is crashing intentionally in Kentucky. Okay, these are demons that are engaging in terrorism. And this is the entity that's engaging in that while they are monitoring the evidence, exposing it in real time. That's also relevant to the mental illness. That's also relevant. So that was 9:47 a.m., 3 minutes later, 9:50 a.m. None of these flights are coming from the airport. They are flying north to then get in alignment to where I am, engaging in the cartwheels using the planes, engaging what is crossing path by hovering over the property. After deviating, flying north of Hope Boulevard, the airport is south of Hope Boulevard, Ontario Airport Ontario Airport. The Ontario International Airport, which is off of Airport Drive, 2500 and 2900 Airport Drive. Those terminals, that airport, the property, you can see when you're on the property of the airport where Southwest Airlines is, where they're parked and the planes are parked. All of that it's all south of Hope Boulevard. They're flying north and then they're flying, hovering over these buildings in the direction west, stalking, and doing so at a high frequency. It's currently 9:54 a.m. They're doing so with regard to the group conduct that the people of the state share in. And they also share in mental illness. This is P.O.C. The entity is engaged in bathroom monitoring as I use the restroom on the bottom floor, the first level. The entity is engaged in surveillance. The heavy male, probably in his 50s with the red hoodie on, captured at 9:59, 10 a.m. along with all of the rest of the gang stalkers at the entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library. They're monitoring while the entity is stalking by plane along the side of the library, and they are monitoring with that same government that's maintaining surveillance inside of the library. You have two males that are engaged in stalking in the male restroom. We're in the restroom that I enter in. The entity is maintaining light activity. So light activity is maintained. First of all, it's impossible light that's in there. I capture that. And light activity is also maintained because the light is off. And so it's behaving like a motion light, but that's not necessarily the case. These are demons, and so it may very well also just be that the light is off and then they turn it on. That's how detailed and obsessive the stalking conduct is by this entity. But nonetheless, behaving like a motion light. And so that means upon entrance, the light comes on. That's light activity. And the same time that the light comes on, the entity is maintaining inexplicable noise. Just inexplicable noise inside of the bathroom while the light comes on. This is while two males are engaging in what is surveillance in the male restroom, monitoring vagina in relevant position as an agent of sexual violence on behalf of the City of Ontario, the state. The male with the red hoodie is stalking in the path with regard to presence as I walk in and out of the bathroom. And this is an entity. He's not acting by himself because he alone is monitoring my vagina. He represents the state that is engaged in the perpetual sex offense. Surveillance in the bathrooms in concert with the sex offenders who are the people of the state. Demons molesting with impossible light, stalking on a ceaseless basis, and they're stalking inside of the library. And the entity's engaging in this while doing so with the employees Lindsay. She's a Caucasian female with shoulder-length purple hair. Hefty stature. Myra, she's monitoring at the computer area inside of the library with these sex offenders that are maintaining relevant positioning while the entity surrounds me with light activity, and I am being molested with impossible light inside of the bathroom. Every move that I make is under surveillance by demons who are also aware and regarding everything concerning your vagina. And they go into the bathroom to maintain that ongoing surveillance system as demons and as those that are monitoring with communication devices. These are sex offenders. They're pacing out of the bathroom while I go to the water fountain area after I exit the restroom, and that's when these two males exit. They're gang stalking, monitoring, in other words, crossing path and impossible light activity as they exit the bathroom as well. This is state action, and it's sexual violence by that entity. And it's shared by Tyla, the employee. She's at the circulation desk. Myra is at the computer station. Lindsay is at the first floor level, and so is Brianna. These are the employees that I've observed thus far. It's currently 10:26 a.m. This is sexual violence regarding that which is committed in furtherance of murder. This type of psychopathic stalking using planes, using helicopters, using what is a whole population that are sharing and what are following you around, keeping you under surveillance, that is committed in furtherance of the full purpose to commit murder. They're stalking in that demented manner, that tremendous concerted group effort to commit murder. And they're doing so while they are keeping all of the evidence about it that I maintain, that I publish on the internet. They're keeping that under surveillance as well. This is an entity that's engaging in this inside of the OVITT Family Community Library. What you're understanding is the psychopathic pacing, the mental illness is shared by the demons that are flying in planes, and this is group conduct. So in the same way that the entity is walking in and out of bathrooms, in the same way that you're looking at traffic, vehicles one after another driving by, in the same way that you're looking at the air traffic, one plane after another or helicopter, this is group conduct. Okay, this is psychopathic pacing. The demons are not only stalking, they are pacing all around me. These are mentally ill, violent sex offenders. They are the demon possessed. Always recognize what is relevant to assessing that mental illness, even apart from the stalking. It's not just that they're stalking, that's relevant to your behavioral health issues. The fact that you're stalking as a whole entity, that's directly relevant to the behavioral health issues revealed here. The entities engaged in psychopathic pacing. This is group conduct, and they're demons whose objective is to pace back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and that's accomplished as a group, one after another entering and exiting a doorway, one after another walking by, one after another entering and exiting the library, one after another walking past in the hallway. They're all pacing all around. If it were one person, you would see it highlighted, and you would be able to clearly see what is very disturbing behavior, because that one person would be handling pacing by themselves, and they alone would be going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And we would all look at that as I capture the fake sun that remains over me for 9 hours at one address, and you would see the same person going back and forth and back and forth. The entity, Satan, this public entity, has appropriated its conduct in order to present as sane. And it's an illusion, and it's a false illusion, because you're able to look at that environment, you're able to look at the behavioral pattern in that environment, and you are recognizing what is the guise of psychopathic behavior. All they're doing is pacing. This is ritualistic conduct, and it's mentally absurdly sick. Okay, apart from what is engaging in surveillance in bathrooms, the fact that you're a deranged psychopath pacing all around. Okay, you spend thousands of dollars using planes and helicopters to do that. You're using all the resources of the fire department to engage in stalking and monitoring one person. This is an entity that is, again, mentally ill. So this is bathroom monitoring. It's 10:30 a.m. The entity is engaged in what is surveillance on behalf of that state, that is stalking, flying from the airport in the direction you're necessarily flying north from that airport, which is south of Holt Boulevard. You're not taking off from the airport, from the terminal, flying north to then fly west over the City Hall, the Ontario Senior Center, like you took off from some property, from the airport east of where you're hovering over the building. The airport, be clear, is south of Holt Boulevard. It's 2500 Airport Drive. There is no airport east of the Ontario City Hall, or the University of Laverne College of Law. There's no airport back there. It's all property, residential property, and I've documented what the entity is doing along Hope Boulevard. They're feigning taking off over Hope Boulevard. So to be over the Ontario Senior Center, you are flying north, a psychopath, then hovering down, and then you're acting. That's what's so sick as you break down what they're necessarily doing. And then you're also looking at what I've already documented. So how are you from the airport flying over 325 West G Street? And what is a plane at that same elevation doing over the 706 West Holt Starbucks, but also the 636 North Vine Avenue 7-Eleven? And at what point is that included in flying over the Hensley Torta building on Euclid Avenue, where this entity is stalking, flying as I walk north or south on Euclid Avenue? It's any street in Ontario, but this is what you're analyzing when you're paying attention to the greater evidence of the pattern of conduct. The entity's engaged in very sick, demented behavior, and it's relevant to mental illness while they are engaged in what is mentally ill behavior in the first place, stalking. Okay, that's the P.O.C. Everybody in the OVITT Family Community Library is walking around with multiple shadows. They're all pacing. These are demons. All right, and there are sex offenders that are engaging what are focusing on my vagina in the bathroom, where psychopaths and violent sex offenders are lying in wait in the male restroom and pacing in and out with regard to that ongoing ritualistic conduct, pacing all around me while they are stalking as demons, conspiring murder. This is P.O.C. It's 10:32 a.m. bathroom monitor. Okay, just again, with regard to the pattern of conduct, Tracy Banks co-conspiring my murder with Jason Isaac Fields. This mental illness, this documentation proving the targeting by the state. This is probative of the mental illness that Tracy Banks and her sex partner, her co-conspirator Jason Fields, also possess. Okay, they are demons and they're very mentally disturbed. They're engaged in what is monitoring me as an entity. They have solicited this targeting system, conspiring my murder, and they thought that they had the most genius plan. And now the demons, including Jason Fields and Tracy Banks, are scrambling, trying to make sense before the federal government that they know is investigating of what it is that they've already committed and make it look like it wasn't a conspiracy to murder me, while I'm documenting what is the direct evidence of it. This is why the state is stalking, because Tracy Banks and Jason Fields conspired my murder. This is why there is evidence that the federal government, you already have, regarding them defaming my character. And all of that defamation, by definition, is that which is malicious and misrepresentation of fact. In fact, those are admissions of the entity that's defaming my character regarding prostitution. They are making admissions to you regarding what they have committed. That's Tracy Banks. That's Jason Fields. The entity that's engaging in what is falsely depicting my character as though I'm some drug addict, they are admitting to you what it is that they are engaging in. That's Tracy Banks and Jason Fields, engaged in heavy drug use. Okay, drug addiction, sex addiction. They're practicing witchcraft. This is relevant to their mental illness. And that's just as an aside. The entity that's engaging in this pattern of conduct, it is demonic. The environment is demonic, and it's all relevant to assessing mental illness. And that's how a government is able to deal with what is icky conduct such as demons, icky conduct such as witchcraft, and things that you're not going to talk about in legislation and in the black and white language of the law. You're going to refer to mental illness. You're going to refer to the behavioral health concerns inherent to this criminal pattern of conduct. And these demons, Jason Fields and Tracy Banks, are both severely mentally ill. And this pattern of conduct is the same pattern of conduct that they are engaging in, and that they solicited to target me while they are engaged in what is entering into courtrooms, defaming my character, while these demons are engaging in the bidding of targeting me until they've accomplished my murder. While I'm being kidnapped by the targeting agency, the Ontario Police Department, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, the Ontario International Airport, who are monitoring with regard to every kidnapping. When you're legally analyzing the entity that's kidnapping, they're doing so while they are monitoring, while they're engaging in surveillance. And that's also what you are engaging in kidnapping as well. everything that is within that criminal act committed. So they're kidnapping while they're monitoring, and that includes the airport that's monitoring with the police that's committing a kidnapping pursuant to criminal summoning, et cetera, et cetera. This is what Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields together share in. They are not separate. They are still engaging in targeting. Tracy Banks is demonstrating that, and it's not distinct with regard to Jason Isaac Fields. This is somebody that is desperate with regard to wanting to conceal what it is that he's committed, wanting to avoid federal prison. That is impossible. That is impossible, and it is, I want to be clear, while you are maintaining your investigation regarding criminal acts that Tracy Banks has been engaged in against me, seeking to steal my money and property and all of that which she has recruited, all of the government conduct which is exposing corruption while the government is targeting me with her, while the government is interested in a stake and money and property that belongs to me, while you're investigating stalking by so-called private investigators like Jason Fields. He's not a private investigator. He's been gang stalking me. He was gang stalking me while I met him in 2002 at San Bernardino Valley College. This is not new. He engaged in what is abusing a position to engage in ongoing gang stalking. It did not begin when he started having sex with Tracy Banks and she's recruiting and telling him about money and he has this job that he can abuse. He's been gang stalking me since I met him in 2022, and however long before I met him, and he was stalking like every other demon in the state of California. He engaged in gang stalking me by sitting in my class in at San Bernardino Valley College in Psychology 101, and he was engaged in targeting like every other demon in that classroom, including the professor. Okay, this is years of state targeting that I've been subject to. This is a demon that is engaging in what is seeking to limit and remedialize his engagement in conspiring my murder. And the sole focus was my money and my property, which you also have evidence that he has already had his paws on. He has already engaged in, and he never at one point ever has spoken to me about my money, my property, my real property. We've never had a romantic relationship. We've never been married. He never told me that he's engaged in vaginal sex, oral sex, anal sex, group sex, gay sex with Tracy Banks. Never mentioned any of that. Never mentioned anything about Tracy Banks targeting me, about Tracy Banks secretly hating me. Never told me that he had a sex life with her when in June of 2018, he was gang stalking me at his apartment in Rialto, California. And while the Claremont Police Department are targeting me, I go to his house, again, still uncertain about him engaging in the pattern of conduct. Again, upon leaving his house on June 2nd, 2018, I left certain that he is a demon-possessed gang stalker like everyone else. He's been targeting, he's been engaged. His sexual relationship with Tracy Banks is a direct indicator regarding corruption, regarding bias, regarding what is his focus on targeting me for money to profit. Okay, the death certificates claiming that I'm dead, the marriage certificates claiming that you're married to me on paper, the insurance policies where you're profiting off of that. This is someone that's providing a means whereby Tracy Banks is getting away with criminal activity. This is the same with the entity. While they're gang stalking in real time, they're still targeting. The entities engaged in this, and Jason Fields and Tracy Banks are going to federal prison under all circumstances, and I have maintained this investigation as of 2018, and I am publishing all of that evidence on the internet with regard to establishing what is precedent to prosecute domestic terrorism, which is a very real thing in this country, and I've been subject to it, and I've proven it. In fact, the entities engaged in that ongoing terrorism, while you are maintaining investigation about them, and while I'm maintaining my investigation, they know about all of that. These are demons and they're psychopaths. This is relevant. This mental illness, this criminal activity, which is a direct indicator to the mental illness, it is shared by Jason Fields and Tracy Banks. And they are maniacal psychopaths who are still betting on a murder of myself that is not going to happen, but they are psychopathic, and they're still engaging in that. And that's because they've engaged in what is contracts without going into the depths of their mental illness. These are demons, and they're practicing witchcraft, and they've engaged in contracts with Satan. And if I'm not going anywhere, I'm not dying. No demon is going to kill. So this is things that's going to happen to them with regard to death contracts that they've entered in with Satan. And that's just, the spiritual realm. But with regard to my prosecution,
with regard to tangible evidence. This is the context regarding mental illness and the ongoing corruption. This is evidence that's put in field and present while he is gang stalking. This is the same system that he's been engaging while he was in court, while he was defaming my character, while he was collecting checks and money and traveling and any business creation, any business ventures, any theft of intellectual property, any ideas, businesses formed from my intellectual property, all of that belongs to me, and it's all the product of this targeting system. Literally, infringement via the conspiracy to murder, gang stalking me. He's going to prison for what Mike Lorenz and that agency is doing. He's going to prison for what the city of Ontario is doing. He's going to federal prison for what the people of the state are doing. He's going to federal prison for what his sex partner, Tracy Banks, is engaging in. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:41 a.m.
¿Qué pasó?
Nada. Come on in.
Coming.
What floor?
I know. ¿Cuál piso?
¿Cuál pieza?
¿Cuál piso? All right, hasta luego. All right, that is bathroom monitoring. Putting a friendly face on the same-sex offense. That is Benjamin. That is maintaining presence as I enter and exit the restroom. Doing so pursuant to the same pattern of conduct. That's bathroom monitoring. It's currently 12:12 p.m. at the OVITT Family Community Library.
Amplification and the entities engaged in, I'm taking pictures of what has been the ongoing molestation with impossible light activity. That's impossible light activity. The shadow is projected on the wall. I'm underneath light. Their headlights, all right, are not causing that vacillating light. They're stalking with the Ontario Police. This is gang violence and furtherance of murder. That's Mike Lorenz. That's that same agency that's engaged in what is ongoing surveillance with the stalkers of the Ontario International Airport, engaging what is gang violence with the people of the state, demons that are stalking together. This is the Ontario Police that's engaged in what is stalking using helicopters in order to engage in what is domestic terrorism, a threat to my life and safety, conspiring my murder with the demon-possessed people of the state who are equally engaged in that criminal conspiracy. German is gang stalking at the Chevron. He's driving the white Corolla. I got that license plate already. The gang stalking employee at ARCO. All the demons engaging in transactions with those businesses. Starbucks is gang stalking. All the demons engaged in transactions with that business. These demons are gang stalking at 602A North Euclid Avenue, stalking with light. I captured this in images. I got license plates over here. They're gang stalking crab, bucket, crawfish, El Pescado. The entities engaged in what is surveillance with all of these venues. Bethel congregation, while the entity is maintaining criminal presence in the past. Okay, this is P.O.C. This is the entity that's in conspiracy to commit murder together, while they are engaging in what is psychopathic pacing. This is group conduct. This is what the entity is doing with planes. It's group conduct. This is what the entity is doing with helicopters. This is mental illness as well. The Ontario Police are going to be both subject to mental examinations and federal prison. So are the people of the state, with whom they are gang stalking and furtherance of murder, and they're facilitating that. They're facilitating that gang violence. Mike Lorenz is going to be prosecuted. That's impossible light activity. While they're in those are demons, and that's ongoing criminal violence. While they are conspiring your murder, that's the purpose of monitoring you, that impossible light activity. That's directly in concert with the demons that are stalking by helicopter. This is P.O.C. Mike Lorenz and that agency remains engaged in what is targeting me in furtherance of murder, and Mike Lorenz is going to be prosecuted for that. This is P.O.C. He's going to be prosecuted for the gang stalking by the Ontario International Airport. He's going to be prosecuted for the gang stalking by the people of the state. And there's no train activity that's going to drown out
this ongoing evidence that's going in federal court. That's amplified audible activity while those demons are stalked with impossible light. This is 537 North Euclid Avenue, where the fake sun rises, documenting these demons stalked with impossible light during the day under the fake sun as well. This is all the evidence that already surrounds while that agency is stalking me specifically using helicopters while they're keeping the evidence under surveillance. That's that entity, that agency, Mike Lorenz, fully invested in murder, for which he's going to be prosecuted. He's going to prison. This is P.O.C. It's 6:49 p.m. These are demons that are driving on the opposite. Just want you to see what that has nothing to do with their headlights. This is gang violence. This is relevant to what is, you're going to prosecute criminal monitoring, first of all, as stalking by the government. The entity's maintaining surveillance.
Secondly, the entity is engaging what is monitoring and furtherance of murder. The entity is doing that on behalf of the government that is stalking me by plane and helicopter. This is mentally ill behavior, mentally ill group conduct, which is impossible to naturally occur. No vehicle in any lane, no vehicle across the street is going to cause my shadow to appear. That's a demon that is stalking me. That's a demon with amplified audible activity. This is all group conduct. And the Ontario Police Department, the Ontario International Airport, are monitoring while gang conduct, pursuant to what is stalking, this is all stalking, and pursuant to what is stalking with light, impossible light activity. It's not even sunlight during the day, and it's not headlights at night. This is the mentally ill that conspire murder, and Mike Lorenz is going to be federally prosecuted for facilitating and sharing in and engaging in this gang violence in furtherance of murder, which is the only reason why a population will engage in targeting one person, because this is targeting. It's targeting when you're under a fake sun. It's targeting when you're driving by and impossible light is vacillating. Your headlights are not going to cause this bench to move across this wall. Your vehicle driving in the street under the sun during the day does not cause sunlight to ricochet over here. And outside does not cause, and being under light does not cause light to project over here. This is all impossible light that they're all driving in, just like during the day. And they are targeting with that agency that you see stalking in this environment, stalking me, like the body of evidence shows, in helicopters and in airplanes, in furtherance of murder. These are domestic enemies. The airline companies, they commit murder, and so do the Ontario Police Department. This is the exposure of that conspiracy to murder with a gang stalking population. This is gang violence. This is domestic terrorism, including while they're stalking with light. And I wanted the entity engaging while I go into documenting on my phone, the entity resorting to more and more sexual violence, meaning more and more light activity. It becomes more concentrated. The demons engage in psychopathic pacing, because that's what this is. This is group conduct. They're not separate. They're not individuals. This is group conduct. This is psychopathic pacing back and forth in the engineer light. This is mental illness that's going to be diagnosed with regard to their criminal activity. And the more that I document, the more that the entity commits sexual assault and battery. That's going toward the gang stalking terrorists of the Ontario International Airport, the Ontario Police Department. The entity's doing that while they're monitoring the evidence on my device. This is sexual violence that they resort to while they, being demons who are mentally ill and co-conspirators of murder, including Amtrak, are engaging in that pattern of conduct. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:11 p.m.
This
Sexual assault and battery, molesting from a distance with impossible light. This is, again, the entity that's engaged in headlights don't create double shadows, and that's engineered light, not headlights. Those demons are at a distance targeting with light. This is gang violence committed in furtherance of murder. It's psychological torture. It's also sexual violence. This is a massive sex act that is committed in furtherance of what is ongoing monitoring the person that they're stalking together. This is all gang violence. This is all group conduct. That demon's on the opposite side of the street. Ongoing light vacillating. That's why I started recording. And then as he drives by, as that demon drives by, he or she, it's a demon, they're engaged in what is molestation. That's a sex offense. 537 North Euclid Avenue, engaged in what is sexual violence. All of these businesses I'm going to prosecute, but this is a facilitating venue. The entities engaged in sexual violence
as an act of the intent to obstruct justice while they're being documented. This is what psychopaths engage in. More terrorism while they're being documented. Mike Lorenz is going to be prosecuted. Why? Because that agency, the Ontario Police Department, is sharing in the criminal pattern of conduct in furtherance of murder with the demon-possessed people of the state, and they are demons alike. Those demons commit kidnappings. Those demons facilitate this gang violence. And while you are masquerading as a police department, you're going to be prosecuted as a terrorist leader. This is ongoing sexual violence while the entity is molesting with impossible light. Your headlights are not creating that light activity. Neither is it occurring on the opposite side of the street. Neither is it occurring while you're driving on the opposite side back there. That's where the entity is targeting. That's the pattern of conduct. Repeating the sexual violence while they're being documented. This is mental illness. This is mental illness that Mike Lorenz has as well. He's demon possessed. He's of the same condition. He's engaged in monitoring my vagina, and he is engaged in doing so with the people of the state. This is what OVITT Family Community Library is engaging in inside of that library all day long. Surveillance. And this is the surveillance that's occurring outside. All right? I just want to be clear. The entity engages in the ongoing impossible conduct over and over again, especially while they're being documented. This is where the entity keeps the fake sun with regard to rising that fake sun. This is how you know that they're stalking with light and that I am the target, because this is where the fake sun rises. The entity is engaged in what is ongoing repeat sex acts. That's a sex act. While they are engaging in what is stalking with impossible light, doing so while they are engaged in what is stalking. Okay? That's a molestation. The entity, I just want to be clear. The entity is engaging in sexual violence in furtherance of murder. That's a perpetual sex offense committed as an entity that is conspiring murder. They are monitoring. Monitoring is committed by, first of all, demons that are engaging in what is state action, and the state's engaging in this gang violence with the people of the state. The entity is engaged in what is repeat molestation. It's not their headlights that's creating stuttered shadows. So that's two of my shadows that you see while they're vacillating across the wall, and that rich concentrated light, that's all engineer light. And the entity is engaging in more and more sexual violence in the course of this video as acts of hostility. That's a threat to my life and safety and well-being. They're monitoring. And this is monitoring that Mike Lorenz is engaging in. Okay? The people of the state engage in criminal summoning with the Ontario police. They're going to federal prison. So while you're seeing them gang stalking, this is what's being remembered. You're cognizant of this when they're being prosecuted for criminal summoning, because they're going to federal prison. They're the ones engaging in kidnapping with the Ontario police while they're molesting with impossible light. This is the evidence that's speaking to the fact that they're fully engaged in that. They're going to federal prison. In the same way that they're acting with impunity, engaging in that sexual violence, walking in the impossible light, monitoring, gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department, sharing in that molestation with impossible light, stalking under the fake sun, they're going to federal prison with the Ontario Police Department, with whom they're engaged in kidnapping and criminal summoning. That's what's relevant, and that's also what you're picking up when the demons are stalking with impossible light. They're going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. That's impossible light activity. Okay, they're driving in the middle lane, they're crossing a path at Chevron, and they're targeting with light over here. They're going to federal prison for criminal summoning. Okay, the entity that's gang stalking with the terrorist agency, the Ontario Police. It is currently 7:26 p.m. This is P.O.C. This is the demon possessed that are engaged in what is stalking with light. Stalking with light is pursuant to what is monitoring. Monitoring is that which is demonic, and this entire city is filled with the demon possessed that are sharing together in that criminal conspiracy. It is the fire department, the police department, the airport that is gang stalking with the population. They are all demons engaged in that pattern of conduct, that conspiracy to murder. Jason Fields and Tracy Banks are going to federal prison as well. This is ongoing state action. And the entity is engaged in what is stalking with impossible light while they are going north and south on Euclid Avenue, and including driving on F Street is not creating that ongoing vacillation of light. That's targeting with light, and it's going to be prosecuted as what it is. It's a sex offense. In the same way that they're monitoring my vagina in the bathrooms in the city of Ontario on behalf of that same agency. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:27 p.m. This is the mental illness that the entity is exhibiting while they're engaged in that pattern of conduct. This is psychopathic group conduct, and it's mental illness while they're stalking with light. Okay, that's demented behavior, and it is committed in furtherance of murder. The entity is going to be subject to mental examinations and federal prosecutions for criminal monitoring. P.O.C.